Hey, welcome back to Thinking Out Loud. I'm Joel.
I am Brad.
We are happy to have you here. So, we had multiple recent conversations, and as always, like we talk about here on Thinking Out Loud, kind of whatever we're dealing with at that time.
It's true.
Like,
True.
This is very true to life. I almost said this is art that reflects life, and then I realized how utterly pretentious it would be to call this art.
Deep. So deep.
Anyway, so we've had multiple conversations recently with marketing professionals who are getting into the influencer space, and they've got multiple different temptations. Option one, they do it themselves. Option two, they source their influencer deals from wherever, from an MCN, talent manager, agency, they don't care. They're just going for the best price.
Right.
Option three, they use one agency. And there is I think what we're finding, there's a significant upside and downside to each one of those. So we're just gonna, in a very, very quick way, I swear to God, this is gonna be a quick video. Very quick way, let's bang through the pros and cons of each of these.
Yes.
So, without further ado, agencies going on their own, doing it themselves, not having any partners, and wanting to go as direct to influencers as possible. What's the pro?
Let's start with that. Yeah, so agency is now looking to run influencer campaigns, and they are reaching out
The brand
over
is looking
email.
to use.
Yeah, excuse me. Brand is reaching out to influencers. They are pounding emails. They are pounding phones, talking to influencers. The pros to that is you are not paying any margin to an agency. So on the surface, hey, that's a good thing. Less dollars that are being paid out for an influencer campaign. The second thing that's a positive, let's stick with the positive, is that you have a more direct relationship with the influencers. Sometimes you're actually going to be talking with the influencers themselves, but certainly not always, because it is a space where there are a lot of different parties involved, and every influencer has the way they work with brands set up differently. But you're invariably going to be closer to the influencer if you're not engaging with an agency. So those are two very salient pros. Do we want to just start? Let's pop over to the cons for so doing yourself influencer.
One, there's an enormous amount of heavy lifting, and what we find is that those who are coming out of a TV buying, out of a display, digital, etc., anybody who's not coming out of anything other than PR is not ready for the amount of time that this takes to source, to handle the deals. And so there's a massive amount of time commitment.
We say herding cats. It's a reality. It's a ton of time.
Exactly. And then every additional dollar that you want to spend, you need to have the human resources that's able to handle that. So that's one. Two, there aren't any economies of scale. Like if I'm a brand, what I don't get the benefit of, say, an agency that's bringing 7 or 8 brands to a particular influencer.
Right.
That affects pricing, and this is the if the fit hits the shan scenario. Do you want it just be your ad dollars that are trying to convince the influencer to do the right thing, or do you want it to be all of your advertising dollars and the person who's controlling that being able to leverage that into so those economies. And then lastly, there are limited options.
Yeah, you only have so many contacts. Like it's a very convoluted space.
Right.
So there's so many different channels out there. Like we live and breathe in YouTube and influencer space. We don't know everything out there. Yes, shocking to hear that we don't know everything, but we don't know all the channels out there. If you're just getting into influencer marketing, and if you're doing influencer marketing for one company and you're one person or a team of a couple people, you can't possibly have all the relationships to have all the potential deals and influencers available to you. So it's actually limiting in some ways to go with a do-it-yourself model, because inherently you're not as connected as working with one agency or multiple agencies who have a ton of connections and a ton of experience.
Yep, absolutely.
Woo.
Okay. The one other con I would say is that you don't know where the landmines are, and you're not leveraging a lot of other brand dollars experience. You got to go learn on your own who doesn't work, who does work, who's a total pain in the ass to work with, who's unresponsive, who's going to drop out on you. You don't know any of those things.
Hey, you don't know the landmines, and you don't know the efficiencies.
Right.
I mean, there's certain influencers that we work with that we know if you want to get anything done with them, text them. Others, you have to call. Others are email. Some, believe it or not, are direct messaging on Instagram. Like, you learn how people want to communicate over time. And if you're dealing with an influencer that only communicates over text and you're trying to email them, they're a pain in the ass to work with. Well, no, you just don't know the right approach.
Only check their email every 3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right, so next option is going with kind of the multiple agency approach, where the theory is you're gonna source it from anywhere, and you're totally fine with influencers or with agencies kind of competing against each other to do it. What's the upside of that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting here because the upside, I think, are what you think about on the surface. And then the cons, which we'll get to in a minute, are a little bit more nuanced. When you hear them, like, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. But on the surface, working with multiple agencies gives you competition, right? So, hey, competition is good. Capitalism is built on competition. So that helps the economy. It means everyone's going to give their best effort because they know they have to continue to perform in order to get the business. I know the next guy is working hard, so I'm more apt to keep my margin super low, right? That breeds competition. So from a brand perspective, you have the option to be able to have a lot of competition. The second thing is you're dealing with multiple agencies who live and breathe in this space. So they have a lot of solid perspectives. They're bringing experience from different brands, and you're now multiplying that by 2 or by 3 or by 4 when you're engaging with multiple agencies. So from that perspective, you're getting more qualitative insights and more leadership and more data points that you can then use for your campaign. So there are some real benefits associated with running with multiple agencies, but there are also some drawbacks to that.
Yeah, and they're frankly pretty significant in our opinion.
Yeah.
So one, you're going to sow a lot of confusion among influencers between what's real and what's not. Because here's the thing: where there's a scenario where someone's like, "I'm open for business," brand is, and I'm going to take offers from anywhere, you're going to get a ton of offers. One, you're not going to know what's fully real and vetted and which influencer has legitimately said, yes, I want to do that for this price.
Right.
And two, the influencer doesn't know whether that's a real offer or not. And so you create a whole bunch of confusion, and you're going to have a lot of stuff that you think that you've got locked in and you're going to be able to spend. You're not going to be able to spend on it because the influencer might not have ever agreed to it.
Right.
They might not have ever agreed to the price that you thought was fair and that you've agreed to with the XYZ agency or talent manager or whatever. Like, there's we see a lot of that all the time. And so you got to be ready that it's like, hey, at the beginning of the month, if I'm budgeting monthly, 50% of the stuff that I think I've got, I don't actually have.
Yeah.
And I need to be ready to move stuff around, and I need to have a CFO and a CMO that's really, really flexible when it comes to whatever my influencer budget is, because it's going to be whatever the hell actually worked that month.
Yeah,
you don't know that.
And the poor influencers too, which I think will dovetail in a future point, but the influencers, they might have a BS offer, which they don't know is BS, and then someone comes in with a legit offer that's been approved by the brand. The influencer's automatically like, well, no, this isn't real. I had this other offer, and that creates huge confusion and can really, really upset the influencer, right?
Well, and we've had influencers bow out of working with specific brands simply because they're like, look, we don't like the way that they are coming into this space. Right. This is sowing confusion, and we're not working with them.
Even when we literally would be on a call with the brand and as the agency for that brand with the influencer themselves, the brand said, no, this is the only offer that's out there. We want to run this, in this case, through the Outloud group. The influencers are like, man, this... and we've done a lot of work with this influencer. This does not feel right. Yeah. I don't feel good about this, and I'm just not comfortable with it. So even when they heard it from the source of the truth, the confusion that had been created in the marketplace was too much to overcome.
Right. And then lastly, I think what we see is influencers who know that there are multiple agencies that are running with the various client. They're going to do what anybody would do, be like, all right, well, Brad, what do you got for Brand X? Right. Okay, Tim, what do you got for Brand X? I'm going to sign with whoever brings me the best offer in the next 24 hours. And so everyone's, bidding each other up. Well, what's happening in that scenario? The brand's paying more than they otherwise would have. All right. Lastly, option 4, one agency. You pick an agency, you stick with it. You're not doing it yourself. You're not doing multiple. There is one agency out in the marketplace. What's the upside of that?
Well, one of the ones that maybe isn't intuitive right out of the gates is over time, the marketplace in influencer world is smart, and it's a small-ish community. And so people learn where the source of the truth is. So for our brand partners, people out there learn over time, like, hey, the Outloud group is the agency for this brand, and they're gonna come to us proactively, and you get more deals that are sourced reasonably easily because now there's clarity about where to go. So that is something that's beneficial and happens over time. Second one is something we covered before, is that, look, agencies work with a lot of brands. There's a lot of best practices. There's a lot of testing that happens. And of course, there's economies of scale associated with working with those different brands. So when you're working with an agency, particularly a reputable one that has a good track record and a good amount of experience, they're going to be able to leverage all those experiences and bring that to bear. So your learning curve is going to be much steeper. So that's a fantastic thing. And then one of the things that's interesting, so I have a lot of background in working with startups and new companies, is that you're constantly having to tell young founders, you need to focus, you need to focus. And the reason for that is that you are much better as a human if you can dedicate all of your efforts to one thing versus have it scattered across 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like 8 things, you might be able to do them all okay, maybe, but you could do 1 or 2 things really excellent. And so if you are working with one agency partner, you are getting their focus. You know you have someone that's dedicated on the hook and it is a priority for them, and that gives you a stronger outcome from the perspective of focus from the agency.
Yep.
Again, those are the pros, but there's a flip side to that. Do you want to share the cons?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're going to be paying a margin. You're going to be paying either an agency fee. You're going to be paying a markup. Now, that can be mitigated if the agency is running a whole bunch of other stuff, bunch of other brands, and they might be getting preferred pricing that mitigates some of that.
But you're still paying a margin.
But you're still going to be paying a margin. So theoretically, it's more expensive than DIY. I'm
going to go on a rant, really short rant. But this is one thing that drives me crazy, is when people are so focused on what the margin is rather than what the price they're paying and then what the results are.
Right.
Because it's like buying an automobile. I don't really care how much the car company paid for the axle or the windshield or the tire. I don't care what their margin is on that. I care about what the price is for the car and what the value I'm getting. And so
and is it backing out to your KPIs?
Exactly, yeah. Hold your agency accountable 100%. Have metrics, hold them accountable, but at the same time, like, focus on the things that really matter.
Yep, absolutely. The other downside is it's going to be tough to figure out who you jive with as an agency until you're actually working with them.
Right.
And I think the smart agency or smart brands that we work with said, look, totally upfront, we're testing right now. We're doing a 3-month test. We're doing a 6-month test.
Right.
We're working with these guys. Everyone, it's all full disclosure. Everyone knows it's a competition between, and then at the end of the day, somebody wins. And that I think does mitigate that. But listen, this is brands. It's a tough thing that you're getting into. We totally get it. We are more than happy to share what we think are best practices, some of which we've gotten into here. We're also more than happy. This is gonna sound so self-serving as it always does. I was on the phone with a brand last week where I said, and they have a direct relationship. They've got their own agency. I'm like, we like those guys. We work well with them. Stick with that agency. Stick with them until, and if you need to switch an agency, fine, switch your agency, but don't water it down and try and do some direct, some with multiple agencies. Don't adopt that model. And even anyways, this.
We're getting into being prescriptive.
We're getting deep. Yeah, listen, we'd love to have a conversation. If this is something that you're wrestling with, we will share our experience. We'll share our war stories. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. You know where to hit us up. All right, that's all from Detroit.
Whew, that's plenty. I am Brad.
I'm Joel. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.